Mine for a Moment, written by Maritabea Sarcevic. Narrated by Joshua Pearson. I still don't know how I even got invited to this Halloween party in the first place. Probably just because I was standing right next to Damien when Sophie talked with him about it, so she just graciously included me in her invitation. But who cares? Zoe's coming too, which is why I'm kind of freaking out right now. I don't know her very well, but my guess is she'll take this whole dressing up thing very seriously, so I can't fuck it up. She already thinks I'm a dull bore, which means a scream mask or a white sheet with holes in it won't do. "Are you done with your inner monologuing?" Hannah quips from behind me and brings me back to the present. Embarrassed, I nod to show her that I'm with her again. Hannah is the kindergarten teacher of my two younger siblings and volunteered to help me when I told her about my costume predicament. She's really good with makeup, which every kid who ever got to enjoy becoming a butterfly or a lion by her hand would testify to. Together we decided, well, basically she told me what to do and I said yes, that I would go as a kind of gentleman skeleton. I think she called it Dia something something muertos, but I'm sticking with the gentleman skeleton. The good thing is that I can just wear black trousers, a black shirt, and a top hat she borrowed from her brother, so I don't have to buy a stupid costume I'm never going to wear again. "We better start with your makeup, or you're not going to be fashionably late, but just rudely late." She bosses me around like she would her kindergartners, and before I know it, I find myself in a chair with closed eyes, trying not to break into giggles because the brushes she uses tickle my skin. After what feels like ages, even though it's just half an hour, she tells me to open my eyes and admire her work. "Wow," I can't help but say. She lightly slaps my arm. "No need to sound so surprised. You know I have mad makeup skills," she jokes, with barely concealed pride in her voice. And she has. I don't even recognize myself in the mirror. Instead of Henry, the always smiling face of a devious-looking skull stares back at me. The mass of black makeup around my eyes makes the green of them seem a lot more luminous than normal, which has an eerie effect. "It's awesome. Thanks, Hannah. I mean it," I tell her and squeeze her hand. "No one's going to know it's me." She grins mischievously. "And isn't that a wonderful thing? It means that certain prejudiced girls won't know what hit them." She must mean Zoe. I told her about her when I asked for her help. And maybe she is right. Maybe this is my chance to talk to Zoe and show her that I'm not the arrogant, boring jock she's been mistaking me for since we first met. Even though met might be the wrong word for when someone runs you over with their skateboard. "I hope so, Han. I hope so," I answer with a soft groan. She winks at me, grabs the top hat from the desk behind her and places it on my purple hair, previously dyed for the occasion. "There, now you're ready. Go and have fun, and just remember, you're wearing a costume. You can be who or whatever you want tonight." Before I get the chance to answer her, the door opens and my youngest sister Emma waddles in. One look at me and her eyes go all big and round. She makes a scared little gasping noise, and to prevent her from screaming or crying or whatever I'm sure she was about to do, I kneel beside her, smile and say in a calming voice, "Hey, little peanut, no need to be scared. It's just me, okay? Henry." I can see it in her eyes, the exact moment she recognizes me when I call her by her special nickname. I started calling her Peanut after we had to see the doctor for the third time, because she'd shoved one of those little suckers up her nose. "Henry?" she asks, bewildered, and I have to smile, because no one in this world says my name as adorably as Emma does, with her inability to properly pronounce the letter R. Hannah rushes forward and hoists her onto her hip. "Doesn't Henry look scary?" she asks her in mock seriousness. Emma cocks her head as if she's thinking really hard. "Why scary?" she simply asks, which makes me and Hannah laugh. "He's going to a party for scary people, to win the heart of a scary girl," Hannah says in a slightly spooky voice. Emma just nods satisfied, as if that explains everything. She starts wiggling, so Hannah puts her back on the floor. She then proceeds to hug my left leg very tightly before waddling out of my room again. I shake my head in amazement. Children are remarkable, and I envy Hannah because she actually gets to work with them every day. It's what I want to do in the future too. Children are just... "You're starting another inner monologue, aren't you?" Hannah interrupts my thoughts. "You have a party to attend. Come on, I'll drop you off on my way home." Sophie has outdone herself. I guess I shouldn't be that surprised about it, because if there is one person I know who would turn even a Halloween party into a big event, it's Sophie. I'm only standing in front of her house, but there is so much to take in. There are tons of artistically carved jack-o'-lanterns. The front yard has been turned into a haunted-looking graveyard with hands of dead people trying to dig themselves out of their graves. And under the rose arch, which is the entry to the whole scene, Sophie's best friends, Ariadne and Tibby, are waiting with baskets in their hands and wicked smiles on their faces. "Hey, handsome, you don't have to be scared of us. Why don't you come over here?" Ariadne calls flirtingly with an inviting hand gesture. I walk over to the two of them and wonder if they welcome all guys that way. If I'm not wrong, both of them are dating boys in Damien's hockey team. But that's their beef, right? Standing right in front of them, I wonder, not for the first time, if Sophie chooses her friends by looks. Both girls are tall, pretty and blonde, even though Ariadne's hair is more on the silvery and Tibby's on the coppery side. Both girls have the same kind of "I'm so irresistible" air as Sophie about them. I shake my head and try to hide a smirk. I prefer dark-haired girls with big mouths over empty-headed dolls like them. "And who might that be under all that makeup?" Tibby wonders out loud as she hands me a little envelope from her basket, which contains, besides more envelopes, the severed head of a wolf. That is what I call commitment to a costume. She's dressed as Red Riding Hood, even though I'm sure that Grandma Hood would never have allowed her granddaughter to leave the house in a dress that short. Also, the original Red Riding Hood probably wasn't covered in blood, right? "Wouldn't you like to know?" I answer teasingly, and then hold up the little envelope. "What's this about?" Ariadne, who is dressed up as what looks like a zombified version of Cinderella, whose fairy godmother forgot to create the lower half of her dress, explains it to me. "It's a party game. Every guest gets a task and has to perform it all night, but you're not supposed to tell a soul what it is. Got it?" Nice idea. I nod in understanding and walk through the rose arch onto the front yard. Behind me, I hear new guests arrive and be welcomed by the two blondes. I open my envelope and find a card with the promised task on it. It says, "Always introduce yourself with the words, 'My name is,' insert costume name, 'Professor,' costume name. Do not use your actual name." I have to chuckle at that. Seems fate agrees with Hannah. Tonight, I'm not Henry. I'm Professor Skeleton. The decorations inside are just as awesome and rich in detail as outside. Everything is illuminated by the light of hundreds of candles and lanterns. The theme seems to be fairy tales, because the whole house has been turned into an incredibly eerie, scary, haunted-looking enchanted forest. There are tons of real branches covered in spiderwebs. The walls are plastered with creepy shadows made of black cardboard, and the tables are decorated with moss, shrubbery, and poisoned-looking apples. And that's just a small part of it. In the background, I can hear what I think are wolf howls, screams, and other spooky noises over the Nightmare on Elm Street theme music. Sophie might not be my favourite person in the world, but damn, she knows how to throw incredible parties. Just as I'm thinking about her, Sophie steps out of the kitchen as, fittingly, the background music changes to the famous Psycho theme. Her costume choice is, of course, the evil queen from Snow White, and she even has a pitiable dude behind her who's dressed up as her mirror on the wall. I'm serious. He's wearing a big cardboard mirror, and only his head is visible in the middle of the mirror's surface. I wonder if she also forced some poor kids to play the Seven Dwarfs. She sees me, raises one eyebrow, and stalks over to me. "Hi, I'm so glad you could make it. Awesome costume. I can't even recognize who's hiding beneath it," she says with a big smile and a slightly questioning tone. She actually has no idea who I am. Let's hope it also works this well on Zoe. I decide to embrace my role as gentlemanly Professor Skeleton, doff my top hat, give her a little bow and say, "My name is Skeleton, Professor Skeleton, and your party is without doubt the coolest Halloween party I've been to yet." Obviously registering my introduction as one of the tasks from her party game, she laughs at me and then points at the French window that leads to the garden. "Why, thank you, Professor Skeleton. Outside is the buffet. Get yourself something to eat and drink, but most importantly, have fun." She gives me another big, and this time also warm smile, and then goes on to welcome someone else. If I'm honest, I'm kind of surprised by Sophie's attitude. I don't think I've ever seen her in such a good mood or being genuinely nice. Seeing that side of her personality scares me more than all the decorations. The mirror dude shadowing her looks me over resentfully and then continues trailing after her. I follow Sophie's suggestion and walk out in the garden. I shouldn't be surprised that the buffet looks as awesome as the rest. There are tons of food, all of it Halloween style, ranging from sausage hands over a shrunken head apple punch to ghostly macaroons. I don't even know where to start. But before I even get to grab a plate, some guy in a Frankenstein costume climbs up a chair and exclaims loudly, "I will now go and visit the white porcelain bowl called toilet. May I be successful in my venture. Wish me luck." He jumps down and goes inside the house. Everyone is laughing, and I'm suddenly quite grateful that my task is so harmless. "Poor guy, he's even worse off than me," I hear a familiar voice say behind me. I turn around, and I'm happy to see my buddy Damien and his girlfriend Anna, who is, lucky me, Zoe's best friend. She is dressed as a witch, and he has what looks like a cape over his arm, but wears no actual costume. "Oh, come on, your task is so cool. Mine is so boring. Let's just swap," Damien says, and grabs the envelope in Anna's hand. She looks quite happy with the offer, and nods enthusiastically. I decide to test my anonymousness on 2 people who know me before I try it with Zoe. I step between the 2 of them, do the whole top hat doffing and bow thing again, and introduce myself with, "My name is Skeleton, Professor Skeleton, at your service." Anna looks at me with big round eyes, which kind of reminds me of how Emma looked at me this evening, but Damien whispers something in her ear which makes her giggle. "Well, that's a nice task at least. Good for you." I wonder what Damien told her to make her usual shyness around strangers go away that easily. Mimicking me, she also lifts her witch hat in greeting and winks at me, before pointing at Damien. "I hope I can leave him in your bony hands while I go and get Zoe, who probably got lost in that ridiculously big house." She grins at the both of us, and then goes inside. "Man, that's a great costume, Henry. Didn't think you'd go crazy like that," Damien says, and my face falls. So that's what he whispered to Anna. My identity. He seems to be able to see my disappointment, despite the makeup masking my features, and says, "Don't worry, I don't think anyone else would recognize you, especially not certain someones who try to ignore you most of the time anyway." I wince, since he clearly means Zoe. I didn't think he knew I liked her. Is it that obvious? "She really doesn't like me, does she?" I ask, frustrated. "Because she doesn't know you. But tonight is your chance, right?" he tells me encouragingly. "Yeah, right," I say, and mean it. I try to catch some of Damien's positive attitude, which miraculously works. The guy is just filled up with goofy energy, and you can't help but let it rub off on you. We try to identify what's in the various punch bowls. "You think there's alcohol in here?" I wonder, and sniff at a dark red liquid in a bowl filled with gummy worms and eyes. "Don't worry, all of these are PG-13. Sophie hides the good stuff, for special people only," he explains with an exaggerated eye roll. Huh, figures. I shrug with my shoulders and start filling up 2 cups with the red stuff, trying not to spill any. With a full cup in each hand, I turn around to check if Anna finally found Zoe. "She's going to break her neck. Soph really didn't think that one through," Damien curses, and I follow his look over to the French window, where a girl, who I think has to be Zoe, awkwardly climbs outside backwards. Unfortunately, my buddy is right, and she misses the second step, which makes her tumble and then fall. It all seems to happen in slow motion, and somehow I manage to drop our drinks, rush forward, and catch her before she hits the muddy lawn. With a shocked face, she looks up at me, and I have to smile, because, of course, she's dressed up as some kind of crazy cat thingy. "I think you just fell for me," I tell her with suppressed laughter and let her down softly. I can't believe I said something that cheesy.